Our speaker today comes from our own congregation. We welcome Karen Kempf. Karen has been a member of this church since 2010. She discovered Unitarian Universalism and helped found the UU Fellowship of Cottage Grove, Oregon in the 1990s. Here at UUCJ, she's been quite busy. She's been involved with the Stewardship Committee and mission funding, leadership development, membership, and now serves on the board. Before she retired in 2012, she worked with the Forward Program of Young Leaders at Jacksonville Community Council. Later, she worked for the city of Atlantic Beach as the assistant to the Recreation and Special Events Department. Karen believes, she said, that she has a wanderlust gene. She has lived in Atlanta, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, New York City, Boston, the Bay Area, and in an eco-village, Cerro Gordo in Oregon. In 1997, as a rite of passage, she quit her job, bought an RV, and spent 6 months traveling back roads and visited springs across the United States. Please welcome Karen Kempf.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, so we miss Peter today here with us, but he is actually on Zoom. Peter is our lay minister. So hi, Peter. I want to say hello to you before I start. So let's take a moment to open our senses. Get comfortable in your seat. Take a full breath. Hold for 4. Breathe out softly through your mouth. And we'll start with your eyes. Take a look around you. Find something that gives you pleasure. Enjoy it. Now lower your eyes or let them close. Listen. What can you hear? Now pay attention to your nose and smell. Sniff the air. Do you smell anything? Now attend to your mouth. Notice any taste. You can even lick your lips. Now place your hands together. Feel them touching your skin to skin, and slowly slide your fingertips down the length of your other hand. Nice. How are you in your seat? Are you centered, balanced, grounded on the earth? Take another full breath into your back and let it out with a sigh. And then open your eyes. Can you activate all your senses at once? We don't usually do that, do we? We're usually a visual type of sensory person. Which of your senses gave you the most important information about this, our environment today? So now that you are fully present, let me begin. I moved to Jacksonville the week before the Super Bowl. That was in January of 2005. Maybe you remember it. I left Florida at the age of 22 and didn't return until I was 60. It was important that I find the place where nature and I could be together. I rented an apartment while I looked for that all-important location, location, location. In October, I moved into a small condo off Mayport Road. I have Hannah Park and the ocean behind me, 5 minutes west, I have the St. Johns River. South, I have Dutton Island Preserve. Lots of water and lots of nature. Location. While we still have 7 principles and 6 sources, today I'd like to speak to our 7th principle, respect for the independent web of all existence of which we are a part. And one of the sources, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. And it continues, by which we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision. So this morning, I hope to offer you a bit of both, expanded vision and deeper understanding. I'll be talking about what I call sensuous spirituality. Now, if you think I'm going to be talking about tantric yoga or about Salome and her 7 veils and dance, I hate to disappoint. So, no, I'm not. But maybe at the end, I'll see if we have time. But I will be talking about our planet, our bodies, our senses, our relationships in the web, and pleasure, all sources of spirituality. But first, some definitions. I'll use the word Gaia instead of Earth, which can mean both the planet Earth, with a capital E, as well as our dry land beneath our feet. Gaia, the Earth goddess, is our planet, which some suggest is an animate, self-organizing, conscious system of stardust. By our bodies, I mean not just our physical bodies, but includes our minds, thoughts, emotions, feelings, our energy. By our senses, I'm speaking about our 5 commonly recognized senses: hearing, touching, seeing, smelling, and tasting. By spirituality, I'm speaking about our body's experience to feel and explore awe and wonder, satisfaction, reverence, joy, astonishment, our connection to humans, to animals, to all of nature, our sense of oneness. In other words, communion with the world and the cosmos around us, of which we are a part. Spirituality that is grounded in our bodies, in our senses, in our experiences. Sensuous spirituality. Like some of you here, I was raised Catholic. Catholic parents, Catholic schools, Catholic church. It was clear to me at an early age that Christianity as practiced left me confused and unmoved. As a child, it was the woods of Atlanta that called to me every day to listen, to watch, to sing, to dance and laugh. My Uncle Augie called me a wood elf. Later in my teens in Jacksonville, it was the beach that became my sacred place, with long walks, sun worshiping, and wave catching. At the University of Florida, humanities was a required class. There I discovered Eastern religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Zen, and Shinto, animism, polytheism, isms galore. I love learning about world religions and its many variations, but I wasn't practicing any of them. It was learning, all in my head. Yet I still relied on grounding, being in, and enjoying nature as my sensual, spiritual source and refuge. Then Joseph Campbell exploded onto the scene. Mythology and the hero's journey. It was all so exciting. Star Wars on a huge screen, and I was Leia that year for Halloween in my white wedding sheath and my long hair wrapped over my ears and buns. The Force was with us. And yes, I believed in the Force, even though I didn't have Yoda for a teacher. In my late 30s in graduate school, living in San Francisco, I combined Wicca's neo-paganism with women's spirituality and found a practice that embraced me as a woman with nature as its center. Wicca, to bend or shape, is the old religion of Europe, a tradition of healing and nature beliefs. A practitioner was a witch. The practice of chanting, trance, circle work, dancing, storytelling, magic, ritual, all made perfect sense to me. In fact, it deepened and opened my perception of the natural world around me. A world of sensual delight. My ordinary reality was charged with new perspective, understanding, and sensibilities. I burst open. And no, I am not talking about tripping on drugs. Another worldview, a shift occurred. As a new pagan, I found myself shifting back and forth between two worlds, firewalking and finishing my thesis. The root meaning of pagan or peasant is people of the earth. Farmers versus city folk, country bumpkins versus metro chic, simple versus educated. Pagan used as a derogatory word meant dirty, illiterate, dumb, savage, and especially unsaved devil worshippers needing redemption. Prehistoric people, primitive people, primal people, and now indigenous people who are all earth-based and earth-wise pagans. We now, in new modern science, we have begun to appreciate and value the worldview of people who are embedded in the world around us, on the web of existence, without concrete, without steel, tech, and plastic. These earth peoples have something to tell us if we would only listen, experience, and change our consciousness. So we're going to shift a bit and see if we can experience and understand some of their connection and world orientation. Most pagan traditions recognize 4 sacred essential elements: earth, air, fire, water, which we cannot live without. And what do we have here on our altar? Our chalice flame represents spirit. Feel energy, light, our sun. In our chalice, we have St. John's River water. It's pretty clear. See rivers, lakes, springs, ocean, glaciers, rain and water creatures, whale and shrimp. We have flowers from the earth. See trees and plants, soil, heaths, mountains, islands, rocks, so many animal creatures. And for air, birds' feathers, wind, rain, clouds, clouds, sky and storms, air creatures, birds and bees, or the chime, or bubbles. All these are sacred. We take these gifts of nature and we bring them home to our altar or to a circle. The elements are associated with the seasons and the directions of north, east, south, west. We have created a mini Gaia biosphere map right here in front of us. Reminders, we are embedded in sacred space and sacred time on this planet. So every time you create an altar, you are celebrating and recognizing our relationship to all things. In David Abram's book, Spell of the Sensuous, he calls for the re-enchantment of the world by ending our disassociation of our body from the world around us. Shift. We become aware of the sentience of nature that is more than just human. We become part of the living body of Gaia. Incense, salt, fruit, rainwater, seed pods, chime, rattle, all find their way to an altar that opens our senses, our hearts, and our spirits, and shifts our perception. They are reminders that we are all one, together in this place, in the circle of our existence on the planet. Every time you create a centerpiece on your table at home, you just aren't decorating. Perhaps you are recreating, remembering altars from our earthy pagan past. Scientists believe human language first came with soundings, imitating other animals perhaps, or creating our own patterns and songs, eventually our own language. Oftentimes, sounds includes hand gestures for meaning, like sign language. Chants remind us of our direct connection with Gaia. Pattern and repetition, body memory. Here is a simple mnemonic chant that connects us to the world. I'm going to demonstrate it. Hold on. water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit. Would you like to join me? Please stand up. Give yourself a little space, and I'll go ahead and sing with you, and we'll do it 4 times for the 4 directions, okay? So, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, then fire my spirit. Well done, pagans, thank you. Who remembers the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout? So, do you feel more energy in your body? What about energy in the sanctuary? Imagine 100 people singing together, stamping, drumming, and singing that for hours. So, that was the 7th principle in practice, celebrating the sacred circle of life and living in harmony with the rhythms of nature in our own bodies. Besides the elements, pagans also have a deep appreciation and love of pleasure. Pleasure is an essential life force, and this is why our senses are so important to feed our spirits. Epicurus, a 4th century, that's 341 BC, Greek philosopher, taught that the highest goal of human life is the enhancement of pleasure for individuals as well as for all of society, for all people. He also taught that the reduction of pain for individuals as well as society was a duty for all. His teachings are a far cry from the belief that pleasure is a vice, that the body has to be tortured and starved so it suits to the spirit and takes a perfect shape, as Largier explains in The Praise of the Whip for light reading. Most of us are familiar with or were told that Epicureanism is the overindulgence of the body and senses that leads to a moral, excessive, corrupt life. But Epicurus taught, and more importantly, lived a moderate life, balanced life in the country. Epicurus and his 400 books are all dust now, but his disciple Lucretius wrote an epic poem which survived in a monastery library until 1412. That poem on the nature of things, De Rerum Natura, was discovered by a book hunter by the name of Poggio Broccolini, which he then copied, circulated, and was translated Greek to Latin. This was then read by many of the intelligentsia of Europe, Machiavelli to Francis Bacon. You must remember that this was also the time of the Inquisition, burning of witches at the stake, the massacre of the Huguenots, and Martin Luther King pounding his 95 Thesis on the church door. Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel, and Galileo, the visionary and engineer, was busy inventing. At the same time, Epicurus and his teachings were making their way around Europe, promoting both pleasure, atomism, and humanism. In Stephen Greenblatt's amazing book, The Swerve, he states that the recovery of Lucretius' great poem permanently changed the landscape of the world. Suddenly, pleasure was once again perceived as a human virtue, not a deadly vice. A flourishing of the sensual arts followed. Beauty suffused with pleasure. Be here now. Carpe diem, enjoy the day. For as many humanists believe, here today and gone tomorrow. This resurrected epic poem became one of the major influences, the swerve in thinking and understanding, a catalyst that ignited humanism and the humanities, the Renaissance of the 1500s, followed by the Enlightenment of the 1700s. Picking up the theme of pleasure, Jeremy Bentham was a late 18th century philosopher and social reformer. He is best known for his utilitarianism. His principle of utility regards good as that which produces the greatest amount of pleasure with the minimum amount of pain, and evil as that which promotes and produces the most pain without the pleasure. This concept of pain and pleasure was defined by Bentham, includes both physical as well as mental and spiritual aspects. He was well-connected social reformer to John Stuart Mill and William Pitt. Jumping the ocean, Thomas Jefferson had 5 translations on the nature of things in his library. When asked about his philosophy in life, he wrote, I am an Epicurean. It is not surprising that our Declaration of Independence, we declare the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. More recently, scientists confirm that organisms move towards pleasure and try to avoid pain. Does that surprise you? Freud, in his Project for Scientific Psychology, proposed the pleasure principle, that human minds seek pleasure and avoid unpleasure. We don't have time this morning to go into the theory of pleasure, but a basic definition is the feeling of happy satisfaction or enjoyment. Happiness, satisfaction, enjoyment. Humans and other conscious animals find pleasure enjoyable, positive, valued, and worthy of seeking out. Desirable. Pleasure inspires action. Yet even today, the word pleasure still carries some negative baggage. It is easier for us to use happiness instead of the word pleasure. But often pleasure is used with hedonism, self-gratification of sensual pleasures, such as sexual satisfaction or gluttony. The word pleasure seems to be more attached to the body, whereas happiness is attached to the mind. But sensual pleasure is also the basis of other emotional and mental states, such as wonder, ecstasy, euphoria, awe, mystery, rapture, and the flow state. And it is these states of being that undergird our experience of spirituality. The body's sense of pleasure gives rise to the experience of spirituality, what I like to call a path to sensuous spirituality. No matter if we are 20 years old or 200,000 years old, pleasure still makes us feel good. So spirituality finds its source in our senses, in ourselves, in the world around us. It is not otherworldly, supernatural, or a gift of grace, but it arises organically in our bodies, in our experience of being human in a world of sensual delights. But Epicurus warns us, pleasure in moderation, not overindulgence, and not exclusive use for just a few, but for all. So, I've led you on a merry chase this morning from our 7th principle to pagans, to celebrating the earth, to our senses, to pleasure, and I hope back to spirituality. Last year, I shared with you my gratitude jar. Now I'd like to share with you one last sensuous practice. Find one thing each day that delights you. Take your time and enjoy it. Engage all of your senses. I now carry my phone on walks with me, which I never did before. And when I discover oh, I love that, I can either record it or I can take a picture and bring it home with me. Wherever your location is in the universe, take a moment to enjoy and savor and experience it as a gift of the living in the web. And I'm not talking about the internet. Crystal will now put up a few of those pleasure moments I've captured in your other senses for your eyes to enjoy. In the immortal words of John Denver, he sings, "You fill up my senses like a night in the forest, mountains in springtime, a walk in the rain, a storm in the desert like a sleepy blue ocean. Come fill me again." So, merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. Thank you.